Hi all, welcome back to Oops with C++ session 42. In previous session, I have explained about static data members, static the variables, how to use that one static variables, what is the problems we have encountered. So if you have not watched those videos, so please watch it. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about how to make use of static variables inside a class. So static data members inside a class. Okay, then let's start. So Uh, just like normal data members, we can have static data members of also inside a class, the class or structure of C++. But whereas in C structures, if you observe, we cannot have a static data members. You cannot provide static data members. Okay? So now what will happen is in earlier session when we are discussing about the introduction to class and structures, we have discussed about something like a class definition table or structure definition table. So there we have discussed that whenever the compiler encounters a class, then it will create a table called class definition table, and inside that class definition table, it will make entry of the non-static data members present in the class. If you have not watched that video, please watch it the introduction to class and object of this series. Okay. Now, what will happen is whenever compiler encounters the static data members written inside the class, then compiler will just simply ignore it to make the entry into the class definition table. Now, whenever we are creating an object, the compiler what it will do is it will check what is the class definition table contains, so what are the data members it consists. So based on that, it will allocate the memory for the object, and that particular assembly code will be generated. But what will happen to the static data members? So static data members it will be ignored. So it is not part of class definition table. So then blindly you can say it is not part of your object also. So static data members existence is tied with the class but not with an object. Okay. So without object itself you can have a static data members. It is existence is tied with the class, not with the object. It's not part of your object. To make your compiler to tie the static data member to the class, what we have to do is we have to redeclare the static data member outside the class, and it is must. If you are not doing that one, you can encounter a linker error. Okay. So before to that, just have some this compiler code. Just observe this code. I have one normal class. I have a normal class. Class my class. Here I have created int a, int z. Okay, and now in main I am creating an object obj.a and obj.z equals to 100. I am assigning. You can see that base pointer minus 8. So after that base pointer minus 4. So from the stack it is decrementing the values. So why it is 8? Because you have two data members, right? Int a, int z. So we have two data members. So two data members is present. Okay. Now what I will do is I will write. So say for example, if you don't have this int z, what will happen? So now you can see the base pointer is reducing minus 4. Okay, that is a value it is assigned. Okay, now what I want is I want static data member, okay, to be present here. So now what I will do is now it is both are same data members, right? So class definition table is created from this. So it will maintain the class definition table will maintain the offsets where exactly this A is present, where exactly this Z is present. So based on so whenever you are creating the object and whenever you are trying to access those values, it is trying to give the values from that. Now what I will do is I will make this Z as static. Now see what will happen. Obj.a base point 4. Okay, then what about this obj.z? So you can see my class scope z. So here it is not, this existence is not tied with the object, it is tied with the class. You can see this, right? My class. Okay, now it is base pointer minus 4 only, because it is not part of z is not part of your object, it is part of a class. So but here it is coming, but when you are linking it, what will happen is, when you are generating the object file, till that fine problem, till that step no problem, but when you are, you have to give the redeclaration, right? That's what we have discussed. If you are not giving the redeclaration, you will get the linker error. This is before linking time. Okay, now let's see. So how to give the declaration, redeclaration of the static data members. Now take this syntax, that is class, you have to write class name, and just like how you will give the normal data members declaration, in the same way you have to give the static data members also. Static keyword is must, data type and variable name. And what you have to do is, you cannot assign the value here. What you have to do is, outside the class you have to redeclare like this. Data type, what data type it is, same data type, and that variable, and this variable is belongs to this class. So you can give class name, scope resolution, variable equals to value. Okay. Okay. So now, so here you can see, right, we are using the scope resolution. Since scope resolution operator is not available in C, we don't have something like static data members inside the structure. Okay, that is the one of the reason you can say. Okay, now what you can do is, this is the redeclaration. Once you have given this redeclaration, then compiler will tie this static data member where static variable or static data member to this class. Okay, to avoid the linker error, this particular syntax is must. You have to give this. Okay, right. Now, static data members of a class will be existed before creation of any object. Means like what we said is, this static data members existence is tied with the class, not with the object. We know that class will come first, next only object will come. So as soon as the class comes, then automatically static data members will get memory. Okay, and it is not part of your object. And static data members of a class can be accessed with or without object also. We know that static data members are not part of object, and it is existence is tied with the class. So you can access the static data member with the class name, or by using the object also you can access it. Two ways you can access it. Okay. So now, irrespective of how many objects of the class is getting created, there will be a single copy of static data member, and that will be shared among all the objects. Okay. Now, what do you mean by this? So, whenever you are creating any object based on the class definition table, for all non-static data members uh, will get memory in the object. If you have created 10 objects, for all 10 objects, same variable non-static data member will be there, but static data member will be shared by only one copy of the static data member will be shared to all the objects. Just observe this. So assume I have class my class. I have one static variable here, static int object count int a. I have given the declaration like this: in my class scope object count equals to 0. Now here I have created my class obj1, obj2. So whenever I say my class obj1, then what will happen is, so as soon as the program is loaded into the RAM memory, then immediately this static data member object count whatever is there, that will get memory, and it is initialized with 0 in the data segment. So all the static data members will get memory in the data segment. Okay, now in main what I'm doing, I'm creating object 1 and object 2. So where I'm creating inside function. Inside the function means it is a stack memory. So in stack segment, first obj1 will get created, and it is having a non-static data memory A. So again obj2 will and this is referring to obj count. It is sharing this object count static data member. After that, I have created obj2, and it is also having a variable a, and this is also sharing the same static object, static data member. So like this, you create n number of objects. All the objects will share the same copy. So it is like what it is saying is, so we can literally avoid the usage of a global data member here. In the previous session, we have discussed what is the problem of using global data member, because object-oriented programming language will don't won't encourage you to use the global data members. So why we are using global data members? To share the resource among all the objects. So now we are doing the same thing. We are creating, you create n number of objects and make one data member, whichever the resource you want to share among all the objects, you make that resource as static, then it will be shared like this. So now object count is a shared resource and it will be accessible by all the objects. Okay. Now just you one program for this. Yeah. Okay, here I have a class. See, I have created one. Okay. So here I have a static data member, one global static data member, and one uh, object count. It's in a static data member inside a class. Okay, what I'm doing is my main goal here is I have to keep track how many number of objects of the same class is getting created. Okay, so here in this inside this class I have one non-static data member, that is variable one, and another one object count, that is a static data member, and a constructor, and inside the constructor I am incrementing the count value. Okay, so here you have to give the redeclaration in my class equals to scope object count equals to 0. Then here you can see my class size of my class. So size of my class means, so when we are discussing about size of an object or size of a class, we have discussed that size of an object or size of a class can be defined as total number of size of total number of static data members, non-static data members present in the class. So here how many non-static data members are there? Only one, that is 4. We are expecting 4 here. So this won't be part of your object. Okay, so you cannot get the value as 4. Okay, value as 8. You will get only value as 4, because one for size only this non-static data members will be considered. Now I am seeing cout objects count. See, what I can do is, if I want to access this static data members without object, then what you have to do is, first you have to write object count, then scope resolution, then my class. Okay, so this is using scope resolution operator. When we are discussing, we have discussed about namespaces, how to use namespaces, why namespaces, how to access namespace contents. If you have remembered that, then you can understand this one. If you have not remembered, just go through that namespace concepts once again. Okay, so scope resolution you have to give my class. So it is like, get me the object count value which is part of this my class. So initially the value is 0, we will get the 0. Now what I'm doing is I'm creating my class obj1, obj2. When I create two objects, what will happen is, for first object constructor will be called obj count, that will be incremented to 1. For second object also constructor will be called. Now the value will be retained because it is a static, and the count will increase it to 2. So now here I am trying to display objects count, that is obj1 dot obj count, obj1 count, that is object1 count or object2 count. If you have modified this object count, that will be reflected to both the objects. Here also we will get 2, and here also we will get 2. Okay, so because it is shared, right? So once you have done modification, that will affect it to everybody, all the objects it will affect. Okay, now what I will do is I will try to So what I will do is I won't give this. Okay. So read declaration I am not giving. So when I'm not giving the read declaration, just see what will happen. Directly compiling. So you can see that relocation, read only, text segment. Okay, you can see where exactly where it is, undefined, undefined reference to my class obj. Okay, so it is the problem. Okay, now it is actually a linker error. Okay, not a compiled error. Okay, how we can prove that? So what you can do is you can compile this code by using only compilation. Okay, don't do any linking operation, do only compilation operation. That is g plus plus minus c. Okay, see, no error. Okay, compiled and we got the variable also. Okay, we got the .o file also, right? So now how to avoid that error? How to avoid that linker error? Just uncomment this. Now compile it. So no error. Just run the program. You can see my class size is 4 because we have only one integer variable, and previously before creating the object also we have taken access of this variable, that is objects count is 0. Okay, you can see here. So what I'm doing, my class size. So my class size is size of my class is 4 because it is taking only the non-static data members value. So next I am doing objects count. Before objects are getting created, this objects count is 0. That is 0 we are getting. So after this I have created two objects. So the count is incremented twice. For obj1 it is incremented here, and the obj2 also incremented. Two times it is incremented. So that's the reason when I say obj1.count or obj2.count. So whatever you say, you will get this one only. Okay. So 2. This is how it is working. Now I have to show you, right? I mentioned that static data members will get memory before the objects are getting created. That we have proved that one. And also as soon as the program is loaded into the memory, immediately the static data members will be get memory, and it will be stored in data segment. Okay, so now let's see. We'll do one here. Okay, say I have right. So instead of global static, what I will do is here same obj count. Okay, see I have two data members. One static variable is there inside the class, and another one static variable is there in the global section. This is also obj count, and this is also obj count. Okay, let's see whether we will get. See, both will get memory in data segment, right? So that's what I have told. All these static data members will get memory in the data segment, DSS segment of data segment. Okay. So now, if both are getting memory in the data segment, how it will take this one? How why we are not getting the any um, what do you say ambiguity, or are we getting any error? Just cross check whether we are getting any error first, or whether it is compiled or not. Okay. So okay, fine, no issues, right? It's clear. Then what is happening? How it is working? Why our program is not getting any confusion, right? So for that, just compile it, generate the .o file. So .o file is generated, right? So now what I will do is read elf minus s. I want to read the symbol table of this static one dot. Okay. Now So this is the, now we can see we have object count, right? See here, what is this? My class obj count is my data member, okay, but it is we have seen the name handling, right? For our data members also name handling will happen when I say obj dot count, so object count, and it is of integer type, okay, and it is present inside my class, right? So for that obj count, how many letters are there in obj count? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, that 8 is coming here, and it is also tagged with its class name, that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, that my class is having 7 letters underscore gender. So this is the naming convention. So name handling is happened for this, and we have another obj count, right? Yeah, so you can see here, right? This one also, see here how it is global, and it is, and here it is this one, it is present inside the class, okay. So it is but for us it is both are obj count only, but when compiler is doing the name handling, so this variable the variable name is completely changed, underscore zn 7 my class 8 obj count, this is the name, and for this underscore zl 8 obj count, okay. So like this, right? So it is giving the different name. So that's the reason we are not getting any error. Maybe for us it is obj count, but compiler it is both are different names, right? It is giving the names based on the namespaces also, right? Now one more thing you can see, there is something like binding. So you can see this is a global variable which is having a local binding, and you have something like a global binding. So generally static data members are for local binding, okay, internal linkages purpose, but static data members present inside the class are for global binding, okay. So that's the reason you can see this is the static data member present inside the class, you can see what is the binding, it is a global binding, and here it is static data member which is present in globally, that is having local binding, okay. So both are different. Local means you can access you can have the access within that translation unit, within that file you cannot have access in another file, so like this. But what about this static data members present inside the class, that is having the external binding, that is global binding. So these things also we can do. So by like with this, we can clearly say that we can completely avoid global data members usage by making use of static data members, and it will provide the security also. So if you have a global data member, anybody can access your data member. Okay. So to avoid that, what we are doing, we are making it as a static data member. Also I want to share that resource to all the others. So you make it a static. Okay, static data members of a class will completely, literally, it will avoid the usage of global data members. Okay, it will be some interview questions also. Somebody might ask this question: how can you tell me how can you prove that? How can you say that static data members can be static data members of a class can be completely avoid usage of global data members? You can do this example, right? So now there is something like as I mentioned, all these static data members will get memory in data segment, right? So here, can you see here ndx name, that is 5, and here also is nd, yeah, yeah, ndx here also 5. Okay. So what is 5 here? Generally it is 5 is the basis segment. Okay. So we can see that also. Ndx name is 5, right? So what we'll do is we'll read entire object file. We'll see the section headers. These are important points you have to remember. If you read the data file, okay, so your .o file will consist of something like this. section errors. Yeah, so here, so you can see, right? This is index numbers, that is 5. Index number 5 means BSS, that is the data segment, right? So it will get memory in data segment. From this you can either it is BSS data segment or 4 or 5. For data segment means when you read the symbol table of object file, you will come to know whether it is present in data segment or whether it is present in some other segment. You can see. So all these static data members will get memory in the data segment. This is the symbol table. Okay. This is our object count, that is 5, that is BSS segment. Okay. And this is also 5. This is BSS segment. BSS segment of data segment. Okay. So now, so that's about this program. Then come back to our slides. Okay. Now, what are the points we have to remember? Is static data members are class specific, not object specific, as we have observed now. So static data members are not associated with this point. This is one key point. So because static data members are not part of object, right? So whenever you are trying to access the data members of an object, then only this pointer will come into picture. So this pointer is closely connected with the object, not with the class, right? So when where it will come whenever you are entering into a member function of a class, then this pointer will be the this pointer will be present inside the as a first argument to the member functions, right? So since static data members of a class will always get memory in data segment that we have seen, at this point you have to remember static data members are not associated with this pointer. So because it's not, this pointer is associated with the object, not to the class, and within the object you don't have the static data members. That's the reason static data members are not associated with this pointer. So irrespective of how many objects of same class we are creating, all objects will share the single copy of static data members. So we can literally eliminate the use of global data members usage with static data members of a class without violating the object-oriented programming principle. Okay. So static data members of the class has to be redeclared outside the class to avoid the linker errors. Okay. So these are the things for static data members of a class. Hope you have understood. So next session we'll see static member functions of how to write and what is the usage of that and what are the limitations. Okay. So thanks for watching. That's for today.